right, well, let's go ahead and get started. Again, my name is Alex, and I'm going to be hosting today's webinar. I have the privilege of doing this about once a week, just to kind of show our customers around, show you how to set up certain things, or tailor the product to your needs, and just kind of give an overview of what Aplos is, what do we offer, and how you can use it to benefit your organization. So for those of you who are new to Aplos, I'm assuming you've at least been to our website since you're here. But really what we do is we provide online software to churches and nonprofits. Over the past couple of years, that's taken the form of a couple of different products. And typically we cater to kind of the small to medium-sized nonprofits or churches. But really, because we've added a lot of functionality over the years, size doesn't really matter anymore. As long as your needs fit within our feature set, you can be fine. We've got customers that operate in the millions. We've got some that operate, with tens of dollars. So it doesn't really matter. As long as what we have suits your needs, feel free to use us. So if you haven't kind of toured our website, I encourage you to do so that way you can kind of see a breakdown of what we offer. But kind of at a high level, we have a few different products. The flagship of which, kind of our main product here, is accounting. And that's what we're going to be taking a look at here today. So accounting, we specialize in what's called fund accounting, which is something that's unique to nonprofits and churches. This differs from any sort of business or personal finance type accounting because nonprofits and churches need to focus on not only profitability, but accountability. You need to know that the money that you have, spend, and receive is allocated or kind of divvied out for the right fund or purpose. And that's what we specialize in, is fund accounting, which we'll take a look at again here in a minute. We also have a donations product, so we can allow you the ability to set up an online donation page, an online form, to be able to receive money online. We've partnered with WePay, they're kind of like PayPal, to do that. And then you can also enter contributions manually. So if someone hands you a check or cash or something, you can go into Applos, you can record that. That can also integrate with your accounting as well if you use both. But really the purpose of that is to give them a giving statement at the end of the year. So it's early December now. I'm sure giving statements are beginning to be on your mind if they are not already. So if you don't already have it, contributions management can make your life a lot easier in that world. And then we have another product here called Donor Relations. What that does is if you're familiar with any sort of customer relations management or contact relations management software, or an email sending software like Constant Contact or MailChimp, essentially that's what Donor Relations is. It allows you to track and kind of keep tabs on your contacts in more detail. So you can have relationships. So you can say, Alex is married to Beth and they have kids, and, he works here with this person. So you can kind of begin to, form the spider web of contact relationships in Applos. You can also track the communications you've had with them. So if you had lunch with someone, you can make a note of that, and then you can set a follow-up reminder to call them in a week or so. But then you can also draft these kind of bulk mass campaign emails that you can tailor to look however you want, with pictures and text and headers and all kinds of stuff, and then create or assign a group of contacts for that to be emailed out to whenever you want. So you can send it immediately, or you can schedule it. I want this to send next Tuesday at 3 p.m. and you can have that go from there. So that's Donor Relations. So all of three of these products, accounting, donations, donor relations, what we've tried to do is kind of create a one, multifaceted solution, kind of an all-inclusive product for nonprofits, because you guys all need to track your financials, your donations, as well as your kind of contacts or your communications, your relationships, kind of the people side of things as well. So with our product suite, which we are continually adding on to, we hope to provide that solution for you. So specifically, what we're looking at here today is our accounting product, so fund accounting product. What we're going to do is kind of take a walkthrough of what that software looks like, how you would set it up, and then what are some kind of next steps that you can do in order to get yourself even more set up with the eventual goal of being acclimated to the software in order to keep using it for your nonprofit. So we have a 15-day free trial that you can jump into whenever you'd like. And if you need more time, let us know. But feel free to jump into that free trial. When you do, you're going to walk through a series of kind of setup questions, kind of like a little walkthrough wizard type thing first. I don't have that in front of you, but once you finish that, what it kind of does is just kind of says, hey, this is what accounting's about. You kind of do three primary things. You create accounts So you create categories that you're tracking for income and expenses and funds. So you create those categories, and then in those categories, you then start recording transactions. So you go and say, I went to Best Buy for $50. So-and-so gave me some money. We got a grant. I transferred money from savings to checking. All of those kind of movements of money are called transactions, which you use categories to keep track of. So create your accounts, enter transactions using those accounts. And then the last thing that you do is pull a report or generate a report. And a report is an answer to a question. Somebody might ask you, how much money have you made this year? Or how much money do you have right now? Or how much money do we owe? All those kinds of questions regarding your financial health are all reports that you can then generate to begin to answer those questions. So really any accounting software, whether you use Applos or QuickBooks or Quicken or in Excel, there's kind of those three primary worlds. You create accounts, you then use accounts in transactions, and then you pull reports. So once you get past that kind of setup walkthrough, you're going to land here, which is your dashboard. Now, the dashboard here is kind of your landing page whenever you log in, and this is going to show you kind of high-level roll-up information on the data that's in your account. So if you don't have anything yet, this is going to be kind of blank, but I've got some figures in here so I can kind of quickly see my total cash balance. I can see my net income for the year. I can see my net income for the month. I can see how many active donors I have. I can see some charts and graphs to show you how much money I'm spending and receiving. So all of this can be tailored to what you want it to show. So that's your dashboard. And then on the left-hand side here is where you move around to the other areas of the software. So going down from dashboard, we've got settings. Settings is where you enter your company's information. So your address, your name, your tax ID. If you have one, you can leave it out if you don't. You can change your fiscal period. You can change your currency that you operate in, your website, all that kind of just organization info you can change there. And then across the top, you've also got some different screens that you can jump to as well. One of which being users. So users allows you to add someone to have access to your account. You can customize their permissions to an extent on what screens or what products they have access to. So feel free to add a user if you need to. Then you've also got subscription, which we're going to come back to at the end of today, so I can kind of explain how the subscription cost works. And then you've got activity log to keep track on who's logged in and who's done what. So it's kind of an audit trail of the actions that have been taken in your accounting software. And then you've got file box, so you can upload pictures or receipts or even formation documents, anything that's kind of pertinent to your nonprofit, you can upload here and save for later access. Moving down from settings, you've got contacts. Now, contacts is just your big address book in Aplos. So this includes donors, this includes vendors. Everybody is put into this contacts section. And then you can either add a new contact. You can also import from Excel if you've got a file that you want to throw in there. And then whenever you've got a contact, you can click on them and add their emails, phone numbers, addresses, custom fields, and that can be anything you want. That can be membership or favorite color, or if they're a part of if they volunteered somewhere or something like that, you can create a custom field to track that information. You've also got dates, so you can add birthdays and anniversaries and other important dates. And then you've got groups. So if they're a 1099 vendor, or if they're a board member, or whatever group you want to create here, all buddies, you can create a group for that, add people to it. Kind of where the groups comes in is once you have the donor relations product and you're sending emails to groups of people, that makes it a lot easier to decide who you're sending the email to. You could just select a group and send the email. Good to go. So that's contacts. By the way, anybody that you enter in a transaction or a donation will automatically show up here, or if you edit their information, the changes will save here as well. So that's contacts. And you got reports. So I'm going to come back to reports once we're kind of done walking through the accounting stuff, because that's what it kind of plays off of. So if you have accounting enabled, then below reports, you've got this little tab here where if you click on it, it gives you these three little sub-menu items here: advanced settings, accounts, and transactions. Advanced settings is where you can turn on or off other features or modules or apps, whatever you want to call them, other stuff that you can do in your accounting. These do not cost you anything. They're just simply there if you need them. If you don't need them, then you can turn them off, and kind of declutters your screen. But these additional advanced settings are accounts payable. So if you need to track money that you owe someone but haven't paid yet, you can use accounts payable. You can also use accounts receivable, which is the opposite. It's money that's owed to you. You've invoiced somebody for whatever membership dues or something. They now owe you money, but you haven't received it yet. So that is considered an accounts receivable. You've also got bank integration, so being able to link your Aplos, asset register with your actual financial institution. So if I'm going to link my checking account in Aplos to my Bank of the West, checking account, then I can link those. And then whenever I go to bank integration, I can download the most recent activity from Bank of the West automatically. It then puts it into Aplos. All I have to do is go through and assign it an income account or an expense account, and then hit import. And that then adds to my records. You've also got bank reconciliation. So that allows you to compare your bank statement that you get from your bank with the information that's in Aplos. Because no one wants to log into their accounting and think, oh, we've got, this much money. But then at the bank, it says something different. So bank reconciliation allows you to reconcile or, find those discrepancies and make sure that you're accurate as of a certain date. So that's bank rec. Then you've got budgeting, and budgeting allows you to set values for your income and your expense accounts for the current year as well as additional years on how much you expect to receive and how much you expect to spend in whatever category. So you guys all probably do this on a personal level for your own home finances. You get so much money, you spend so much money. So I want a budget that we're going to spend, this much on food this month. I want to spend this much on car insurance, this much on, whatever. So budgeting allows you to do that for your organization. Go through and set, we expect to receive this much money for these different categories and spend those for those. And then on a report, you can then compare how you're doing actually, with all your transactions compared to what you budgeted for the year. And then lastly, we've got check printing. So this allows you to print a check for any transaction that you enter, whether it's a bill owed or some sort of expense entered. You can then print a check for that transaction. All right. So anyway, that's advanced settings. So that's where you turn on or off different stuff. Once you turn it on, you can either go from this screen or they'll be available either in the accounts or transactions section. So let's get into the actual accounting side of things now. That's kind of a high-level tour of how you move around. But now for accounting specifically, we'll look at those three areas. So first, setting up a chart of accounts, then recording transaction using those accounts, and then generating reports based on that information. So step one, accounts. So in the accounts section here, you've got your your account types, assets, liabilities, equity, income, and expense. I'll give a quick overview of that real quick. And then you've got your funds up here at the top. So again, the first step that you're going to want to do is kind of think through the different categories of money that you're spending and receiving and how much you own and stuff, and then create categories that represent that. So the first category here, assets. So assets are accounts that you create to represent anything that your organization owns. It's your possessions, okay? So at the most basic level, this is an account created to represent your bank account. So my checking account. Assets are typically numbered in the 1,000 range. Anything within the 1,000s, however you want to organize it. But you can see here I've got checking. So I've got a checking account that I want to track the balance for. I'm going to create a checking account asset in Aplos to be able to track that same account. I've also got savings, petty cash, accounts receivable, and this can move into other stuff that you own as well, like fixed assets, land, depreciation, all kinds of different things that you own. But kind of basically it's like your bank accounts. The next category here is liabilities. So you'll want to create a liability account for any money or any way that you owe money. Okay, so this is debt. This is either short or long-term debt, money that you owe someone else but haven't paid yet. So this can be accounts payable. So if a plumber comes out to your property and does some work and says, you owe me $100, due in 30 days, you can use accounts payable to track that I owe that value. Another kind of more common example here is a credit card. So when you spend money on a credit card, you now are spending the credit card's money and you owe the credit card. So if you have a liability register account here, you can track those purchases that you've made on the credit card. That all accumulates to what you then owe the credit card, and then you can pay that off whenever you want. You can also set up accounts for longer term liabilities, like if you own a building but you have a mortgage on it still, you're still kind of paying that off. So you can create a mortgage payable, long term kind of note payable. So anyway, any money that you owe somebody else, you're going to want to create a liability account for that. I'm going to just kind of jump over equity here because we're going to come back to that. But income and expenses are the two most broad categories that you're going to create accounts for. Income is any way that you receive money, okay? Any reason you're getting money. So this can be contributions, or if you're a church, tithes and offerings. You've also got grant income, missions income, fundraiser donations, special events, book sales, yard sale revenue, whatever you want to create. Any way that you receive money, create an income account for that. Because again, when you record a transaction, you're going to say, so-and-so gave me money. What account is that going to? Well, you pick it here. So create your income accounts there. And then you've got expenses. So expenses are the opposite. It's any way that you spend money. So not any place. So I wouldn't have an expense account created for Best Buy, but what did you go to Best Buy for? Did you buy office supplies? Did you buy equipment? Did you, whatever? Why are you spending money? So you'd create an expense category to represent that. So here, office equipment, postage, utilities, outreach, fundraiser expenses, pest control, salary, again, any way that you're spending money, create an account for that. Now, as you're doing this, again, kind of think down the pipe a little bit. So if you're kind of wondering, okay, well, what would my account be? Well, again, the whole purpose here is you create accounts to then record transactions and pull reports. So it's kind of your foundation. So if you can picture yourself recording a transaction or even pulling a report, and you need to know, what account do I use right now? Why am I spending or receiving money? Or if I want to pull a report that says, you've gotten this much money this year, but how? That's great, but what were the categories that kind of made up that total receipt? Those are the different categories that you're setting up here. So your chart of accounts is completely unique to you. Not every organization is, like another. So I would encourage you to think through this and spend some time here. Just keep in mind that you can always change this. You can always add a new account. You can always change an account. You can always disable an account. So don't feel like you need to get it perfect before you move on. Just kind of think through the categories, create a couple of them, and then get to work doing your transactions. So before I show you transactions, one other thing I wanted to note here is funds. Okay, so this is what makes us special, fund accounting. So a fund is any area of your organization that needs to have its own income, its own expense, and then here's the trick, its own ongoing balance. Okay, it's like if you look at a pie chart, and the pie chart represents your whole organization. If there's any split in the pie chart, any piece of the pie, that's probably going to be a fund that you want to create. Kind of the trick that I tell people is the answer to this question: how much money do I have set aside for blank? The answer to that blank is going to be a fund that you'll most likely want to create and track separately. Just to kind of give you a quick example of what fund accounting looks like. So let's say that you're a nonprofit, right, which you are, and you've got a bank account. So you've got $10,000 in your bank account to use for whatever you want. You then apply for a grant, and you get the grant. And let's say the grant is $5,000. Okay, so you get a check for $5,000. The grant says that you have to spend the money on these specific things and for nothing else. So then you go to the bank with this $5,000 check and you deposit it. So now your bank balance is $15,000. With me so far? Okay. So now when you go to Best Buy and you spend money, how do you know what pool of money you're spending money from? It's all coming from your checking account. So what's to stop you from spending money that's allocated to a different purpose specifically? It's designated for something else. Well, that's what fund accounting allows you to kind of keep track of. So in Aplos, you would create a fund for, again, each one of those kind of separate areas, anything that needs to have its own kind of balance. And once you have that, then per transaction that you enter, you're going to pick an account. So one of these accounts that we set up here, income or expense, and then you're going to pick a fund as well. So when you go to Best Buy, you can say, I spent $1,000 on a computer, and that's coming out of my general fund. It's not restricted for anything else. So then when you record that transaction, it decreases the amount of your checking account by that much. It also takes it out of the general fund balance within your checking account, so that when you look at your checking account, you can know that Now my balance is down, but I still have the right amount of money segregated for whatever purpose I need. Okay. So your funds, think through that as well. Again, the answer to this question, how much money do I have set aside for blank? Probably going to be a fund. So if you want some more clarity on that, we're happy to help with you as well. And then I can also, at the end of the day, I'll show you a course that we created that walks through this in a little bit more detail. Okay. So anyway, here's your chart of accounts. Again, just kind of the listing of all the different categories you're going to use for money that you own, money that you owe, your funds, your fund balances, the ways that you get money, and then the ways that you spend money. Okay. So after you've created these, again, hopefully not in such detail to where you have a headache, but just kind of take a quick pass and create some accounts. And then you can now use these accounts in transactions. So when I click on the transactions tab here, I've got a bunch of different options up here at the top. The 4 entry screens up here at the top are the different screens that you can enter transactions into, and they're different. So the first one here is the register. This is where you're going to record any transaction that has impact on a register account, which a register account is typically your bank accounts and your credit cards. Okay. Again, the register accounts are anything that needs kind of a itemized listing of everything that's come in or come out of it. Okay. So I've got my checking account here, and below that, I can switch to savings, or I can switch to my credit card, whatever register I'm working in. Below that, I can enter a new transaction, and then I can see a history of my transactions down here. So I can see that my current balance here is $27-ish thousand. And these are all the transactions that have led up to that current balance. And if I scroll down to the bottom, that 27,000 change balance is spread out across my funds like so. In my building fund, I've got 5,200. In my general, I've got 11,000 or so. Missions, I've got 5,300, 5,200. So that's that kind of fund accounting uniqueness that we offer there. So you can take a look at not only what's my balance, but what's my balance spread out across the different funds or areas that I need to keep track of. So there's your fund accounting right there. That also shows on your reports, which I'll show you here in a little bit. So to enter a new registered transaction, all you need is a date, payee. So I keep running with Best Buy, so let's do that. You don't have to put in a comment, but you can if you want. You can have bought a computer. And then a payment or a deposit value. If this is money that you're spending, it's a payment. If this is money that you're receiving, it's a deposit. So let's say I spent $1,000. I did not write a check, so I'm going to leave that blank. And then my account. So here's where these accounts come in handy. So I'm going to scroll down here and pick the applicable expense account that I have created. So all the way down here, I've got my expenses, and this is going to be for office equipment. So I'm going to select that category, which you can also just kind of start typing, and that's going to give you the options there. So office equipment. And then I'm going to pick what fund. So I'm spending $1,000. Well, that's great, but where is this money coming from? What pool of money is this using? I'm going to say my general fund. Submit. So once I submit, that then saves the transaction in my history here. You can see the details. It used my expense account, so the right expense category got used. It also decreased my overall checking balance, which is correct. And then if I scroll down here, that money came out of my general fund. So if you remember, before we entered that transaction, the balance was $11,736.03. Now it's $10,000. So the $1,000 that I spent got taken from the right pool of money. Okay, so that's your register. Just to give you a frame of reference, you're probably going to spend 90 to 99% of your transaction entry time in the register. If you use donations, it's a little bit different, but for you accounting folks, the register is where you're going to do just about everything. The journal entry screen here is your standard debit and credit entry screen. For those of you that just went cross-eyed when I said that, don't worry about it. Chances of you actually using the screen are very low because we have these other screens for transaction entry. This is not normally necessary, but for those of you who like old school accounting entries for debits and credits, you can use this if you'd like. We actually have an entire webinar dedicated to the journal entry section, which goes through debits and credits and how to post transactions and what do they all mean. So if you're curious about that, let me know and I can get you the link. Moving on to accounts payable. Again, this is where you would record any money that you owe someone else but haven't paid yet. So you'd go through and enter a new bill, so plumber gave me a bill. I owe them $100 in the next 30 days. So I would record that. So once I record that, it's now an active bill, and then I can scroll down here to the bottom to pay my bills, which once I pay my bills, it's going to pop up with a transaction here in whatever bank account I'm paying it from. So that'll pop up in your register as well. Flip side, accounts receivable. So money that is owed to you, but you just haven't received yet. So I am the plumber. I then invoice someone for the $100. They owe me $100. That's a receivable to me. Okay, so same kind of thing. You'd enter an invoice, something that you sent to someone to say you owe me money. Enter the invoice, then you can receive payments down here at the bottom. Okay, and then in advanced settings, we touched on a couple of other things like bank integration, bank reconciliation, check printing. All of those are available here in the registers section, with the exception of budgeting, which is in your accounts section up here. So we create accounts. You then use those accounts in transactions, and that all goes down to reports, which is kind of the last area that we're going to cover here today. So a report, again, is the answer to a question. How much money have you made? How much money have you spent? How much money do you have? How much money do you owe somebody? Any of those questions can be answered through a report. And in our reports section, we've got these kind of broader, categories, little quadrants here that you can click on and then customize the report. We also have some little quick links here to, different customizations that you can do of these kind of larger areas. So the two main reports that everybody uses is an income statement and a balance sheet. An income statement shows you the money that you've received minus the money that you've spent, equaling your net profit or your net loss for whatever date range you're looking at. So again, kind of the example of personal finance, right? If you get a paycheck for $1,000 and you only spend $800 throughout the month, then you have a net profit, you have a net income of $200 for the month. So same kind of thing. So you can change your date range here to a specific date range. It's going to default to just year to date. You can also change the report format over here on the right to be, I'm going to look at the current month versus last month, the current month versus my year. I want to see a monthly breakdown, so you can customize this all with different options here on the right-hand side. And that's your income statement. The other report that you might use here is the balance sheet. The balance sheet shows you a snapshot of your organization's financials as of one day in time. So today's December 3rd. This is my balance sheet for today. What this shows is my total assets, total liabilities, and then my total equity. For you accounting people out there, this shows what's called the accounting equation, which is assets equal liabilities plus equity. An easier way to describe that is the money that you own, what you have, minus what you owe somebody else equals your kind of net worth. Okay, so assets minus liabilities equals your equity. So I can see that here. So I've got my total assets. I've got this much in checking, this much in savings, this much in building improvements, whatever. I've got these possessions. My debt here is $50,000. So my assets minus my liabilities equals my equity. So at the end of the day, once I've paid off all my debt, I am worth this much in these different fund balances. Okay. So there's your balance sheet. Again, you can add columns to this. So you can see a balance sheet per fund. You can also see an income statement by fund. You can customize it with different stuff here on the right-hand side, date ranges, whatever you need to do. Those are kind of the two most commonly generated reports. The reports below that are more research-oriented or detail-oriented. So if you wanted to see a list of transactions for a certain account, you can do that. If you wanted to see a list of transactions per person, you can do that. Contact list, what payables and receivables are outstanding, what bank reconciliations have you done, statement of cash flows. So all of these reports can be customized to what you want. If there's something in here that we do not offer, let us know, because we are actually in the process of redoing our reports section right now. So if there's something in there that you would like to request, then feel free. Just keep in mind that reports is kind of an endless black hole of preference. So, someone might want to see a report one way, someone might want to see it a different way. We can't please everybody. So, but either way, submit your request there. We'll do our best to get something in there for you. So that is accounting in a very, very high level and quick nutshell. So kind of the basics again, you enter you create accounts, which are your categories for the money that you own, owe, receive, and spend, and then your fund balances. So you create those accounts. You then use those accounts in transactions to record what's happened in your organization financially, and then you run reports to see detail on that information that you entered there. So the last thing that I want to cover here is in settings, you've got your subscription. So price, what does it all cost? For our accounting product, we have two different prices. None of it depends on functionality. It all boils down to users, okay? So for accounting, for a single user price, which means one person has access to log in with their own password to edit the accounting information, that is $25 per month and includes all of the functionality you just saw. So $25 a month for one user. If you need any more than one user, so 2,000, whatever, how many, multiple users, we have a multi-user price that adds $15 to your monthly subscription. So if you have more than one person that needs to log in and play with the financials, that is another user, that would bump you up to $40 per month. And that's just one time. So again, you can add as many users as you want from there. It's just $15 for multiple. And those are our two prices. We also do have the donations product down here and donor relations. So if you're curious, we've got webinars on those as well. Those also increase your price depending on if and how you use them. But for accounting, it's either $25 for single user or $40 for unlimited. Okay, well, I have talked quite a bit and there's been a lot of information. So what I would like to do now is open it up for some question and answer time. So if you guys have questions, feel free to find that question field in your GoToWebinar control panel, shoot that over. I'm going to mute myself for just a minute or two and then be back to answer those questions for you. If you are joining us after the fact, so this is being recorded, big surprise. If you are watching this online after we have already finished, if you have any questions, feel free to email support@applos.com, or if you're already in a free trial or if you're already a customer with us, you can also click this little question mark down here at the bottom right of the software. That will open up kind of a chat that we can have. It's not a live chat, so if you submit a question and we're not readily available, we'll get back to it as soon as we can. Otherwise, if we're online and we have nothing else to do, we can answer it right then and there. Okay, so thanks for joining us. Appreciate you taking the time. For those of you who are still live, I'm going to mute myself for just a minute and be back and answer those questions for you.